My name is Clara. I'm 102 years old, and I can still walk to my kitchen, make my own tea, and sit by the window every morning without asking anyone for help. People see that, and they assume they know the reason. "You must have exercised your whole life," they say. "What kind of routine did you follow?" They expect me to describe something structured, disciplined, a system I followed for decades. But the truth is simpler than that. Exercise is not the reason I lived this long. In fact, for most of my life, I never thought about exercise the way people do now. There were no routines, no programs, no schedules built around movement. And yet, I am still here. So when people ask me about my longevity, I tell them something that often surprises them. My secret has very little to do with exercise. It has everything to do with how I lived my days. Because the body does not only respond to movement, it responds to everything. How you think, how you carry your time, how you treat your relationships, how much weight you hold inside your mind. All of that shapes your life just as much as what you do with your body. I didn't understand that when I was young. When I was in my 20s, I believed what most people believe, that life is something you build by doing the right things, working hard, making careful choices, planning for the future. And those things matter, but they are not the full story. I remember being 27, standing in a small kitchen, thinking about everything I needed to do next. There was always something to improve, something to prepare, something to fix before I could finally relax. And I believed that once everything was in order, I would feel settled. But life doesn't arrive in that way. There is always something unfinished. And if you spend your life waiting for everything to be complete, you will spend a long time waiting. That realization didn't come to me immediately. It came slowly, through years of noticing how people lived and how their lives affected their bodies. I saw people who exercised regularly, but carried tension in everything they did. Their shoulders were tight. Their voices were sharp. Their minds never seemed to rest. And I saw others who lived more simply, who moved naturally throughout the day, who spoke calmly, who didn't carry every problem forward. And those people often seemed lighter. Not physically, but in a way that affected everything, their breathing, their posture, their presence. And I began to understand something. The body reflects the life you live, not just the movements you perform. That understanding changed how I paid attention to my own life. I did not suddenly create a fitness routine. I did something else. I began noticing how I was living, how I moved through my days, how I reacted to things, how long I held on to them. One of the first things I realized was how much tension I carried without noticing it. Not from anything dramatic, just from thinking too much, from trying to manage everything, from holding on to small frustrations longer than I needed to. And that tension stayed in my body, in my shoulders, in my breathing, in the way I moved. It wasn't something I could stretch away. It was something I had to release. So I started making small changes, not big ones, just small adjustments. When something bothered me, I didn't carry it all day. When a conversation ended, I let it end. When the day was finished, I didn't replay it over and over again. That alone changed something. My body began feeling lighter, not stronger, just less burdened. And that matters more than people realize. The second thing I noticed was this. I was always in a hurry, even when there was no reason to be. Walking quickly, eating quickly, moving from one task to the next without pausing, as if something important was always waiting just ahead. But when you live like that, your body stays in a constant state of tension. It never fully relaxes. So I slowed down. Not dramatically, just enough to feel what I was doing, to notice my steps, to sit a little longer after a meal, to let conversations breathe instead of rushing through them. That small change had a quiet effect. My body began following that slower rhythm, and that rhythm felt sustainable, not forced, not exhausting, just steady. At 102, I do not think about how much I exercise. I think about how I carry my days. Because the truth is this: you can exercise for an hour and still spend the rest of your day in tension. And that tension will follow you longer than that 1 hour of movement. But there is more to this, because what I discovered over the years went deeper than just tension or pace. There was something else, something I didn't fully understand until much later in life. As I grew older, I began to notice something that no one had ever explained to me clearly. The people who aged well were not always the strongest. They were the ones who carried life differently. There is a difference. Strength is physical. Carrying is something deeper. It shows in how you respond to what happens to you, how long you hold on to things, how you move through your days, not just with your body, but with your mind. And this is where I began to understand the real reason behind my longevity. It wasn't what I added to my life, it was what I stopped holding on to. For many years, I held on to things longer than I needed to. Small arguments, disappointments, moments that didn't go the way I wanted. I would replay them in my mind, think about what I should have said, what someone else should have done. And every time I did that, I was carrying that moment forward, even though it had already passed. I didn't realize how much that affected my body, but it does. The body doesn't know the difference between something happening now and something you are replaying again and again. It responds the same way. Tension, tightness, a kind of quiet stress that stays with you. I remember a time in my 50s when I had a disagreement with someone close to me. Nothing dramatic, just words said the wrong way. But I held on to it for days, then weeks. Every time I thought about it, my body reacted. My chest tightened, my breathing changed, and I carried that feeling everywhere, even when nothing else was wrong. That's when I realized something. The event had ended, but I had not let it end. So I began practicing something simple, letting things finish. When a moment was over, I allowed it to stay in the past, not by forcing myself to forget, but by choosing not to relive it. At first, it wasn't easy. The mind returns to things out of habit. But over time, that habit changed. And as it did, something else changed too. My body felt lighter. Not because my life had become easier, because I was no longer carrying everything with me. That became one of the most important things I ever learned. Longevity is not only about what you do, it is about what you release. There was another thing I began to understand in my later years, and this one surprised me. Loneliness affects the body more than people admit. I am not talking about being alone. There is a difference. I have spent many years living alone. Quiet mornings, quiet evenings. That kind of solitude can be peaceful. But loneliness is different. Loneliness is the feeling of being disconnected, of not being part of anything. And that feeling settles into the body in a quiet way. I saw it in people around me, people who stopped reaching out, who stayed inside their homes too often, who slowly became distant from the world. And their energy changed. Their posture changed. Their voices became softer, not in a calm way, but in a withdrawn way. So I made sure I stayed connected, not in a big way. I didn't force myself into crowded places. I didn't try to maintain dozens of relationships, just small connections, a conversation, a visit, a phone call, something that reminded me that I was still part of the world moving around me. That mattered more than exercise ever could, because connection brings energy. It brings a sense of life that the body responds to. The body is not only physical, it is emotional. And emotional health shapes physical health more than people realize. There is one more thing I began to notice as I moved into my 90s. And this may be the simplest truth of all. The body follows the pace of your life. If your life is rushed, your body stays tense. If your life is chaotic, your body stays unsettled. But if your life has rhythm, the body follows that too. I never lived a fast life. Even when I was younger, I moved steadily. Not slowly, not quickly, just steadily. I didn't chase everything. I didn't try to keep up with every expectation. And that steadiness became something my body understood. It became my normal. At 102, I don't wake up thinking about exercise. I wake up thinking about the day, how I will move through it, how I will carry it. Because the way you carry your day becomes the way your body carries you. But there is one more truth, the most important one, the one that explains everything else. When you live to 102, you begin to understand something that is very easy to miss when you are younger. Your body is not just a physical thing. It is a reflection of how you have lived your life. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, accumulated way. Every thought you hold on to, every moment you rush through, every feeling you carry longer than you need to, all of it leaves an impression, not immediately, but over time. And when enough time passes, those impressions become your condition. That is the truth I didn't fully understand until I was already very old. Exercise matters. Of course it does. Movement keeps the body active, flexible, responsive. But movement alone cannot carry you through a long life if everything else you do is working against you. You cannot stretch away tension that you never release. You cannot walk away from stress that you carry in your mind all day. You cannot exercise your way out of a life that is constantly rushed, constantly heavy, constantly unsettled. That is why I say my longevity has very little to do with exercise, because the foundation of it came from something else. It came from learning how to live without constantly working against myself. That may sound simple, but it took me decades to understand, and even longer to practice. The most important shift I made was this. I stopped trying to control everything. When I was younger, I believed control was necessary. You plan carefully, you prepare, you think ahead, you try to prevent problems before they happen. And some of that is useful. But there is a point where control becomes tension, where the mind never rests because it is always trying to manage what comes next. I lived like that for many years, always thinking ahead, always preparing, always holding something in my mind. And I didn't realize how much that affected my body. The constant readiness, the constant anticipation. It keeps you slightly tense all the time, even when nothing is wrong. So I began letting go of that need to control every outcome. Not completely, that's not possible, but enough. Enough to allow things to unfold without constant interference. Enough to trust that not everything needs to be managed in advance. And that change did something important. It allowed my body to relax more often, to return to a natural state instead of staying in a constant state of readiness. That kind of relaxation is not something you achieve through exercise. It comes from how you think. There is another truth I came to understand, and this one is even quieter. You must feel at peace with your life in order for your body to rest fully. That doesn't mean your life has to be perfect. No life is. There are always things you wish had been different, moments you would change, choices you might reconsider. But if you carry all of that with you every day, your body feels it. I spent many years holding on to things from the past, not dramatically, just quietly, thinking about what I should have done differently, what I could have said, what might have changed if I had made another choice. And I thought that was just reflection, but it wasn't. It was attachment. And attachment to the past keeps the body from settling in the present. So I began doing something simple. When those thoughts came, I acknowledged them and let them pass. Not by forcing them away, just by not holding on to them. That happened. That belongs to another time. And slowly, the past lost its weight, not its meaning, just its hold on me. That created a kind of peace I had never felt before, a quiet acceptance, and that acceptance allowed my body to rest more deeply, because it was no longer carrying yesterday into today. At 102, my life is very simple. I wake up early, I move slowly, I sit often. I watch the world outside my window. I have conversations when they come. I let the day unfold. Nothing about it looks impressive, but it feels right. Not because everything is perfect, because nothing is pulling at me the way it used to. I am not rushing. I am not holding on to things unnecessarily. I am not trying to control what cannot be controlled. And that way of living has shaped my body more than anything else. People often want a clear answer, a specific routine, something they can follow. But the truth is not something you can reduce to a list. It is something you understand slowly, through how you live. If I could say one thing to someone younger, it would be this: pay attention to how you carry your life, not just how you move your body, because your body is always responding not just to your actions, but to your thoughts, your pace, your habits, your emotional weight, all of it. At 102, I am not strong in the way I once was. I am not fast. I am not powerful. But I am steady. And that steadiness has carried me further than anything else. My longevity did not come from pushing my body harder. It came from living in a way that did not wear it down. And that is a truth most people only understand after many years have already passed. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.